Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take sources, like the ones you provide, and really boil them down to the key insights.
Basically giving you that shortcut to understanding what really matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it as, getting the core wisdom without wading through everything yourself.
Mhm.
So today, our focus is on some really interesting ideas from Rabbi Itamar Schwartz from a YouTube transcript, actually. We're looking at hitbodedut.
Right. Solitude, introspection, that whole area.
Yeah. And for you, the learner, listening in, wanting that quick but thorough knowledge, we're going to explore these layers of inner awareness, perception, and cultivating inner listening.
Exactly. Rabbi Schwartz offers some pretty profound takes on our inner lives here.
So the mission today.
Pinpoint the core teachings, especially around how we see ourselves, how we connect inwardly. We'll touch on practices like habata, that's intentional looking, and hakara, which is recognition or awareness.
And how those lead towards understanding hitbodedut.
Precisely. A richer understanding.
Okay, sounds good. Let's maybe start with a quick look back. We've touched on habata before, right? The deliberate looking.
We did. And the power of habata, as we talked about, is really in its ability to bring renewal, maybe some detachment, lets you see things fresh.
And it's key to remember, isn't it, that habata and hakara, this looking and the awareness that comes from it,
Yeah.
they're like constantly linked, always renewing each other.
That's right. The transcript really emphasizes that. As your habata, your intentional looking, gets refreshed maybe by pausing, going inward before looking again, your hakara, your recognition, it also deepens.
Because the way you're looking is new.
Exactly. So you naturally arrive at, well, newer understanding.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me. Rabbi Schwartz uses this analogy, comparing it to people getting to know each other.
Ah, yes. That's a great one.
At first, recognition is external, superficial maybe.
Right. Surface level.
But as they spend more time,
Yep.
connect more deeply, that recognition gets clearer, more internal, sharper.
Sharper, stronger. Yeah, it's that depth of connection built over time that really strengthens their hakara, their understanding of each other.
So the takeaway here is, just as relationships deepen understanding, consistently returning inward deepens our own awareness.
Absolutely. It mirrors our inner experience. If we keep renewing our habata, even when looking at something familiar, by consciously, going back to a deeper internal point,
Okay.
that strengthens our hakara, our recognition of whatever it is we're looking at. It just gets sharper, clearer over time.
The source mentions breathing too, right? Deeper breathing.
It does, briefly. And you can see the parallel. Just like deeper breathing can access, let's say, deeper physical states, this deeper origin point for habata can lead to more profound awareness.
So it's not just more awareness, it's awareness hitting a deeper spot inside, like an internal sharpness.
Exactly. Chidud panimi, as the transcript calls it, internal sharpness. Think about the newborn analogy again. Your first recognition is one thing, but over time, it becomes this deep, connected understanding that touches something really profound in you.
Okay, I see.
So this deepening hakara, this growing recognition, it's not just surface knowledge increasing, it's like peeling back layers, revealing deeper and deeper inner understanding.
And crucially, you said each renewed look, each habata, should try to come from an even deeper place.
Ideally, yes, that's the goal. You want the habata to originate from a deeper place, so the hakara that results really resonates with that depth, creates a richer awareness.
Which brings us to the practical side. How do we actually do this? How do we cultivate this deeper perception?
Right. The transcript offers some concrete exercises, ways to renew habata from those deeper places.
So it's not just glancing again from the same spot, maybe when you're distracted.
No, exactly. It's about consciously trying, after you pause and go inward, to look from an even deeper internal space.
The deeper breathing helps access that.
It can serve as a way in, yeah. But the transcript also gives specific mental exercises. One is about viewing the same thing from multiple perspectives, but within yourself.
Okay, how does that work?
Like trying to see something as a child might, or how you might have seen it as a young adult, and then how you see it now.
Oh, okay. Different internal viewpoints on the same thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Recognizing these different internal gazes or mabatim, the idea is to open up your inner perception, get different angles on the same object,
Makes sense. It breaks you out of your usual rut, maybe.
That's the goal. Unlocking a richer, more nuanced understanding. Breaking free from habitual views.
Okay, what else?
There's a second exercise, viewing the same thing but from different emotional states.
Oh, interesting. Like happy versus sad.
Yeah, exactly. See how it looks when you're sad, then how it looks when you're happy. The aim is to develop the ability to see with two gazes, shneim mabatim, on the same thing.
Recognizing how emotions color things.
Precisely. For the learner listening, the key thing here is seeing how your internal state shapes how you experience reality. It's quite powerful when you notice it.
And there was a sensory example, too. Something about the sea.
Right. Observing the sea from sea level versus seeing it from a high mountain.
Totally different perspective.
Drastically different. Same sea, same reality, but your perception shifts completely based on your physical viewpoint. The transcript mentions other things too, like different angles or even colored filters.
Just driving home the perspective matters a lot.
That's the core idea from all these exercises. Cultivate the capacity within yourself to look at things with multiple perspectives. Kama mabatim.
And practicing this helps you get back to that deeper place for Habata.
Exactly. If you've practiced seeing from different internal and external viewpoints, it becomes easier to tap into those deeper origins when you intentionally look, when you practice Habata.
Okay. So we've got looking, Habata, recognizing Hatara, doing it from deeper places, using these exercises. Now let's get into inner solitude, Hitbodedut.
Right. The transcript makes a distinction here. There's external Hitbodedut, physically being alone.
Like going off to a cabin in the woods.
Kind of, yeah. But then there's internal Hitbodedut, and that's about entering those deeper layers of yourself we've been talking about.
And the idea is, the deeper you go inside, the more unique you become, more distinct from others.
In a sense, yes. More isolated, you could say, but not necessarily in a negative way. It's just that you become less similar to others on the surface. Think about it.
Okay.
Our faces are all different, right?
Yeah.
But our innermost thoughts, feelings, experiences, they're even more distinctively our own.
But the transcript says there's still a connection to the outside. It's not total isolation.
Right. It mentions a yasad, shilo, mervet, imhabrio, a foundation not mixed with others. There's still that connection. But the focus in internal Hitbodedut is on continuously striving to enter that more internal, unique space.
And this inner journey leads to understanding your unique essence. Etzmi shel atzmo.
That's the idea, yes. A deeper grasp of your own unique self.
But what about, the human need for connection? Sharing. We all want that.
The transcript acknowledges that, definitely. But it also points out something quite profound. Even in our closest relationships, there's always a core part of us, an inner world that we just can't fully share.
Yeah, I think everyone feels that sometimes.
Right. And here's the twist. The transcript suggests this inherent inner solitude, this inability to fully merge or share everything, might actually be, divinely intended.
Intended? For what?
To cultivate this very inner space needed for Hitbodedut. It highlights that realizing this inherent aloneness can be painful, sure.
Yeah, I can feel lonely.
But it also holds this truth, that very private, unshareable inner space is where you can potentially connect with the divine.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you look around, the transcript points to everyday examples of this built-in solitude. An infant sleeping, anyone sleeping at night.
It's a retreat into oneself.
Exactly. It's not the highest form of Hitbodedut, obviously, but it shows it's a fundamental part of being human. We all have these moments of drawing inward.
The transcript then broadens this out even more, right? Saying the whole creation has Hitbodedut in it.
Yes, it introduces this idea that all of creation is filled with Hitbodedut, though much of it is described as fallen, Nephilah.
Fallen. What does that mean here?
It seems to imply states of isolation that aren't chosen or aren't directed towards holiness. Maybe like feeling trapped in negative thoughts, sadness, forced isolation, rather than a conscious, positive turning inward.
Ah, okay. So recognizing this universal principle of inner space helps make our own Hitbodedut feel more natural.
That seems to be the point, less like something strange or wrong, more like tapping into a fundamental aspect of reality. And then it contrasts this fallen state
with holy Hitbodedut.
Exactly. Fallen Hitbodedut might involve sadness, feeling forced into being alone. Holy Hitbodedut involves joy, a chosen inner connection, and the choice, ultimately, is yours.
And this links back to Habata and Hakara.
It does. That process of looking deeply, recognizing from deeper places, it naturally leads you towards these more internal, potentially isolating layers of yourself.
So understanding Hitbodedut helps you navigate that. Avoid the sadness.
Right. Recognizing that this inner space is inherent, even necessary, helps you avoid feeling negative about it and instead embrace it as a path to holy interconnection.
Okay, so what is true Hitbodedut then, according to the transcript?
Ultimately, it's described as being alone with the divine. But, and this is crucial, that state is preceded by cultivating the inner space of solitude within yourself.
You can't just jump to connecting with the divine while still fully tangled up with others.
That's the implication. Connecting from that place of being overly intertwined isn't seen as true hitbodedut. You need that inner groundwork first.
So it's about reaching that deepest internal place where you're really truly alone with yourself. And from there, making the connection.
Precisely. External isolation, like just being physically alone without doing that inner work, isn't the genuine article.
The transcript mentions people fear this inner aloneness.
It does. That many prefer external connections, even when they're seeking something spiritual. There's a resistance, maybe, to confronting that core individual I in solitude.
But that's where the real connection happens.
That's what the transcript suggests. True connection with the divine requires meeting your individual self in that space of inner solitude.
Okay, so let's try to summarize for you, the learner, listening in. We've really covered some ground.
We have. We saw how renewed looking, habada, deepens recognition, hakara. We looked at practical exercises for gaining multiple perspectives, kama mabatim.
Right, seeing things in new ways.
And then we explored this fundamental reality of inner solitude, hitbodedut, not just as being alone, but as a pathway to deeper self-awareness and potentially divine connection.
So as you, the listener, reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider those exercises. Think about this concept of inner solitude in your own life.
Yeah, it's worth pondering.
And here's a final thought to maybe mull over. How might embracing that inherent inner aloneness, that feeling of being uniquely actually enrich your connections, both with the world and with yourself?
What if that very uniqueness is the bridge, not the barrier, to a more profound understanding of everything?
Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to explore these ideas further, maybe even go back to the source material with some of these insights in mind.